Shit 90 Shows Taught Me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.
Are you ready to slay another day? So are we. Welcome back to Shit 90 Shows Taught Me. I'm Jess Sterling here with my co-host, Sara Humphrey. Sara, how are you?
I'm good. You know what? I don't know why I was not expecting that.
I have been like since pre-pod, we've been chatting for a few minutes. In my head the entire time, I'm like, don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up. Because because it's like it's second nature, you know, at this point. Like the intro just rolls off your tongue. This is the first podcast we are recording since Sara got married this past weekend. Sara, from all the listeners, first of all, we got a couple pieces of feedback. People are so kind. They're like, we hope the wedding went well. Like, congratulations. So a lot of warm wishes your way.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really special day. It was very small. Just like some of our closest friends and family. And it was like a really great weekend, a really special day. And yeah, I started like the last name change, which like you chose to keep Sterling, which is because it's a great name. Honestly, that's one of the reasons. But it is a process.
And that was another reason. I knew that it involved a lot of like paperwork and a lot of like you were on the phone for an immense amount of time.
Yeah. So one of my, I feel like secret talents, I know like Buffy has a lot of secret talents, but I do have a lot of secret talents. And one of them is having the patience to stay on hold for a stupid amount of time. And I was on hold with Social Security just to talk to one person. Like it wasn't like, oh, let me transfer you. It was one person that was
like
waiting.
You didn't talk to a human being until that one person picked up.
It was 3 hours and I think 34 minutes.
Why is this not something that can be done online at this point?
Well, I thought it could be done online, but I don't know why. I don't know if it was my location that doesn't do online appointments or what the issue was, but I wasn't able to do it online. But yeah, I literally waited for 3.5 hours to talk to Social Security.
All the patriarchy's fault.
I guess so. I don't know.
It shouldn't be this difficult. And that's the other reason, Sarah. That was another reason I remember being very annoyed about, because when trying to decide, will I change my name? Will I not? I had considered at one point in time making my middle name into my existing last name, and then taking my husband's last name. But that, at least in the state of New York, I don't know what it's like in other states, but the only way to do it for freezies is just changing your last name. If you want to change your middle name, they're like, nah, give me hundreds of dollars.
I think that is the same case as well. Maybe. I'm not quite sure. So it's the process, because it's like first step is change it with social security. That's step number 1. So now I have an appointment to meet with Social Security, and then I had to wait a couple weeks.
That wasn't even the whole thing. That was to make an appointment.
Yes.
Are you 3 hours? Why is that not on? I thought this was the whole thing, but you're saying just to make an appointment, you couldn't go online. You had to call.
Yeah.
I would have lost my mind. I
was fine.
Did you listen to music? Did you do something else? Because that hold music would have.
Yeah. I mean, I was working during, so I was like actively doing stuff, but yeah, because I had like the stupid same song like for 3 hours. And then it goes,
please stay on hold. Yes. Your call is very important to us. It's like, no, it's not, bitch. I've been here for hours.
Yeah. Adam was like, Sara, there is nobody on the other line. Nobody is going to come. I was like,
it's all a joke. Yeah.
No, I was like, somebody's coming. I knew it. And they did. But yeah, so I have an appointment on Monday, and then I have to wait like 2 weeks for my new Social Security card. Then that's step 1. Then I have to go to the DMV to change my license.
The worst place in the world.
And to change.
Do you get a new photo?
Registration, maybe. And then I have to do my passport, and that's a whole process. Then all my credit cards, then all of my bank stuff, then all of this, then all that. So this was just step 1. It really is pretty crazy.
I mean, in some ways it's very exciting because Sara, you will be lucky enough to not get mail addressed to you incorrectly once everything is said and done. Can I just tell you? Because tis the season, right? We are officially in holiday season where you're getting tons of cards in the mail from family members.
You got a card?
Oh, we get Christmas cards from like my family, Will's family. Everybody sends Christmas cards. The problem is, Sarah, and I find this hysterical. Will's family knows. They know my last name, and they will write on the envelope, my husband's name, Jessica Sterling. Like it's, every time they know how to do it.
Oh, that's actually very respectful. Okay.
Thank you. My family, not respectful at all. They don't know my last name. Always Mr. and Mrs., my husband's last name. Every time. And I don't know why I get so bent out of shape, Sarah, but I get so bent out of shape about it because I wouldn't care if my husband's family did it because like I'm not related to them in the same way where I am like, you should know. I've had this name for 30 something years. It did not change. It is very easy. I don't understand what your problem is.
What? I'm so confused. Why are they so resistant to?
Well, they just assume I took his last name, I guess. And even though we told it was very well known, established that I was not changing my name. Anyway, I shouldn't get so annoyed about it, but I kind of do just because fuck the patriarchy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. My my own mother put like the S at the end of Humphrey. So she was like on Facebook, she like posted it, and she was like Mr. and Mrs. Humphreys, which I think is like actually going to be the number one thing that I'm going to get because like this whole time, my whole life, it was always like Ferguson, like Ferguson. And I'm like, oh, it's spelt wrong. It's whatever. Now it's going to be like
Humphreys. Yeah.
I'm like a singular hump, like just one.
just one hump.
Just one.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't, that, I don't know that would bother me as much. My dad's, I'm pretty sure, still does not know how to spell Will's last name. Like, he's asked me.
It's a very fancy name.
It is a name that is difficult. It has a lot of vowels. Like, it's not an easy last name. Another reason I kept my own.
The funny thing is that like when you're changing your name, like the thing is you can only choose a name, in my opinion, that is a step up. Like I think that if you're changing the name, make it better than what you left behind. Exactly. But for you guys, it would have been a lateral move.
Oh, in your opinion, a lateral move.
Yeah, I think that your name is as good as his name, and I
think my name is better.
I just don't think so.
He agrees. I think here's the thing, and we'll talk about Buffy soon, I promise. But we have a lot going on. The thing that I'm very pleased with my own name is it's very rare that I have to spell it for people. Because both my first and last name are extremely easy. The only thing I get asked is if Sterling is with an I, because that is a version of that. And I say, no, Sterling Silver, and then boom, we're done. Whereas my poor husband has to deal with not just having to spell it for people, but also there is a word within his last name. I'm not going to dox him on the podcast, but there is a word within his last name that like childhood, in childhood, you would get made fun of. And that is like one thing that he really hates about it. Yeah. Understandably so.
Sure. I mean, once again, my last name is Humphrey. So I understand.
Yeah. A single hump. Yes.
Just one hump.
Just one.
That's it.
But you guys can get like monogram towels now. Like you guys can do the whole kit and caboodle. We can't do that. Yeah. It would be weird if we did. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, like I said, I think my name is a step up. Now I feel like a fancy bitch. I share a last name as Dan Humphrey. Like everything is looking up roses.
Yeah. Upper East Side, here you come.
Yep. But yeah, let's talk about another celebration because it's Buffy's 18th birthday. And I love a birthday episode of a show because I just feel like a birthday episode of a show is never bad. It always hits.
Yeah. Dawson's Creek, I think, is number one still in my books for like the best because we got the blues. But this episode was fine. I think like what it did for me was like really worked on the Buffy and Giles like relationship, and obviously leaves things off on like a what? Giles is fired. The other thing, Sarah, which I don't know if you were able to stay awake through, is we got a lot of lore this episode.
I don't remember there being a lot of lore, so maybe I did fall asleep.
Okay, well let's break this down. So apparently in Slayer culture, they have to take a test on their I don't know if it's on their 18th birthday or if it just has to be around, but this is totally fucked because first of all, your 18th birthday is very significant, at least in the United States, because it is like the age that you become an adult. You can vote, you can sign up to go to war. Like there's like so many things you can do. When you can buy lotto tickets, you can smoke, you can do so many things when you turn 18. And to have to go almost die, possibly die on your birthday is fucked.
I kind of loved this for so many
Wrong
reasons.
with you? Are you okay?
I so loved it. I love the thought that like, oh, this is like a tradition. Like, number one, it's like a step away from hazing, which I'm not saying I think hazing builds character, but
you're not saying that.
I'm not saying that. Number two, this so reminds me, and it's so on like a different like caliber, but sophomore year of my college, we had to take a test, it was like a spring review. And if we did not pass the spring review, then we got kicked out of interior design school. And it felt
intense.
It felt the same. Like it was so scary. Like, so like your entire like summer break, you're like working on this like 10-piece project and then you submit it. And then they like take the entire semester to review it. And then you get a letter in the mail and like you either get like kicked out or like you're like, these are the things that you need to improve on. And
that is horrifying because it's such a delayed amount of time to be anxious through. I don't know that I would have survived that.
It was rough. I mean, obviously, I did not get kicked out of interior design school. There was a few people that did. Sucks to suck, but
that is so brutal. Oh my gosh.
It kind of reminded me of that, but totally on a different scale because we didn't like get killed.
Almost die.
We didn't die. We would just have to change our major. But I thought it was so interesting, the fact that like this is it. And I also thought it was interesting that like a Slayer cannot just live on their strength and their powers alone. They have to use their wit and they have to use like their experience that they have previously had as a Slayer. And like they just can't like rely. You can't you can't be relying on that body. What was that? That's from RuPaul.
Oh, yeah. Don't just rely on body. It's you can't just rely on fish. Yeah. I think my biggest problem, I have so many problems with this, but like, so we meet Quentin Travers, who is, I think, head watcher, or at least like in charge of like, maybe he's just the general manager of like the division that Giles belongs to.
Yeah.
But he's the one who's kind of getting this test ready, right? He has his two little underlings. They're like, I don't know if at first I thought they found a maniac who has murdered people and turned them into a vampire for the sole purpose of the test. But the second time I watched, I think they actually just captured him. And their whole point is he's a shitty dude. So good, right? Good thing Buffy's going to kill him. But also, my biggest problem with this test is that they don't tell the Slayers that it's coming at all. So they are being drugged, made to think something is seriously wrong with them and that they're ill because they start to lose their powers. And in the meantime, Sarah, Buffy is still out there slaying. She almost died with just some rando vampire off the street, let alone one that was like set up as a test for her.
Once again, this reminds me so much of hazing in a sorority, because right before you get initiated, there's allegedly, and not all sororities, there's sometimes something called like Hell Week, where they put you through like absolute torture. And as long as you like pass the test, and also there's like sometimes like a test like at the end, as long as you pass the test, then you can get initiated in the sorority. But if not, you're kicked out. Like, this is straight up hazing. And Also, it's like you're not in like the know of a lot of the things that are going on. I don't know. I think it's okay. Like
What?
it's fine. I think it's
This
fine.
is horrible, especially because my other question is I
Yeah.
don't disagree that like slayers need more than just their strength, right? Like more than just their super strength. I totally agree with that. However, if that's the case, then Giles and Buffy should be actively working on something like that and training towards that. And she should be made aware that Buffy, there's going to be a test on your 18th birthday that you have to pass. I don't understand why the cloak and dagger routine. Like, why are we chaining up some baddie and acting like it's fine? Why are we acting like it's fine that he literally kidnapped her mother and like that is supposedly all fine and dandy? Like, I don't understand. And it seems like the crystals, like the study of crystals that they were doing was solely for the purpose of putting her in a trance-like state to then drug her.
Yeah, because I was just about to defend him and be like, they were studying crystals because Giles is such a crystal girly. But apparently that wasn't it. I'm trying to remember. Do you have a recollection of Sabrina, the teenage witch, having to do some sort of test in front of the council? Or am I just making this up?
I don't have a very good memory for any specifics of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but besides, like, wasn't her best friend / boyfriend Harvey, and he like climbed in through her window? That's like the main thing I remember.
Now you're confusing Clarissa Explains It All with Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So
I told you.
Yeah, I mean, you were right. Like her boyfriend was named Harvey, but you're just thinking about Clarissa Explains It All with the window. I mean, he might have went through the window. I think like they would probably do a little nod. Anyway, I think that it makes sense that they don't tell her beforehand because we just have to like, okay, the fact that like they die is probably not good. That's probably like the bad thing. Like if they're
killing 18-year-old girls,
everybody's dead in Sunnydale. Like
they're on a hellmouth, people.
Yeah. If you make it to 18, then you are like a blessed goddess. So like, I don't really think that that's surprising. Everyone's dead in Sunnydale. I mean, like maybe we don't have to die if we don't make it, but I don't think that you should be told about it. It's like a pop quiz.
Okay, but okay, that's fair, but I would maintain that pop quizzes are fucking stupid and their sole purpose is to be like, surprise, you didn't know this was here. Where it's like, if you fucking told me there was going to be one, I would have studied. Pop quizzes are a person with anxiety's fucking nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
Yeah. The issue is that there are no like surviving slayers because like once again, we need an alumni association, right? Because if there's alumni, if you were able to retire as a slayer, I don't know if that's possible because I think
you die. I think you die.
Everybody just dies. Yeah. If you're able to retire, then it could be like, look, like I'm not supposed to tell you this.
We need a fucking union.
Yeah. This is on the DL. But like you need to know like X, Y, and Z before like you just need to know this. Buffy can break the generational trauma, right? Like Buffy can tell Faith.
Exactly, because Faith yet again was like on some sort of whatever retreat or whatever the heck she's doing. But my other question is then, okay, so Giles is Buffy's watcher. He is responsible.
Not anymore, bitches. Fired, you stupid loser.
Oh my God. Okay, so he's responsible for drugging her. He knows that this is a thing that he has to do. He's resistant to doing it. Now, based on the fact that he himself was being tested and failed the test, are we to believe that this is Giles's first ever Slayer? Like, I thought, well, if one Slayer dies, then you get a new one, like you get a new toy, versus it seems like if your Slayer dies, it's like, well, you were a shitty watcher, you fired.
I would assume so. I feel as though, I don't know. There's obviously a pool. We have Mr. Main Watcher, and they're all in England, and they go to Watcher school. We know that Giles is a Nepo baby. His dad was a Watcher. That's how he got into the biz. There's a pool out there, and once a Slayer is called, we like probably, I know what they do. I know.
They
Okay.
draft them.
Almost, yes. You know that bingo thing where it's the big bingo
The
cage.
bingo ball?
Yes. And
the cage and you
yes.
roll it around.
Exactly. Every single watcher's name is on that ball. And when a new Slayer is called or a new watcher is needed, we crank it. We crank it real good. We crank it real hard. The ball comes down. Oh, it's Giles. It's his turn. Go off. Go off. And that's what had to happen with Faith as well.
Yeah, it's just wild because I guess I had always assumed that like Giles seems like someone who has a ton of experience, right? He always, whenever he talks to Buffy, he always sounds so knowledgeable about like being a watcher and Slayer's responsibilities. I never thought that it was like both their first time. And so it was wild to me that like Giles seemingly hadn't done this before. And he was responsible for injecting Buffy and basically stripping her of her powers and then putting her through this test. And while she passed, which we'll get to at some point, he failed because he treats her like a daughter. He cares about her too much, which is such a silly thing. Like, oh, well, you're not good for the cause. You care too much about your Slayer. It's like, well, no, he needs to keep the Slayer alive. I think that's kind of his job. So like, it seems like he's doing a pretty fucking good job of that.
Was that the only reason, or do you think that he also got fired? Because I interpret it as like Giles eventually told Buffy what was going on. And like, I feel like that was also grounds for termination.
Oh, definitely that was grounds for termination. But I don't, did they know that he told her? I don't know. I don't think so. Cause she ended up going to the place that she needed to go to anyway. I mean, certainly wouldn't be helped, like not helpful in his cause. Yeah. I think the reason is that like he wasn't objective, like he cares too much about her, and that is in their words useless to the cause because he treats her like she's his daughter. And they couldn't have smacked us in the face with this more than they did this episode, Sarah, where like Buffy's own dad is fucking a piece of shit, doesn't show up on her birthday, just sends her flowers. And Buffy is being so over the top and not subtle at all and being like, Giles, we could go together to the ice capades or whatever the fuck.
It was like an ice show, which like, no offense, Buffy, but you are a freaking child. Like, what kind of person
she admitted to that
wants to go to an ice show? You know what I did on my 18th birthday? I got a tattoo, you little wimp.
I mean, I did too. But I think the thing is, I appreciated this because it felt like this is something Buffy and her dad do every year, right? So it's like a traditional thing for them. It's like if you did anything every year with someone you don't see very often, you just come to treasure that activity, even if it is a little childish, immature, whatever. And so when her father cancels on her, like it's so brutal to see that happen. And especially when Giles is so preoccupied with having to make sure she's in a trance and he's having to inject her with this stuff. Like he doesn't even pick up on the fact that she is angling at him going with her instead.
Yeah. Man, I kind of wish that Giles was like intentionally making her study. Like I thought.
Oh, you thought the crystals were like, you wanted it to be a real thing.
Yeah, like I wanted the crystals to be like, it's like, oh, I can't tell you, but we can like, cater our lessons towards what will be on the test. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I kind of wish that he did that because then like, it's not like he's telling her, but he's preparing her. But instead, he just has to. And where are these crystals from? Is it from the magic shop? Like where? I've never seen
the
Giles
crystal store.
Yeah, I've never seen him be a crystal girly at all.
I think that these were, if I had to guess, that Travers or I don't know what his name is, Quentin, that the head watcher, he brought them into town specifically for the purpose of putting Slayers in trances, is my guess. But I love this idea, Sarah, of like almost doing not subliminal messaging. Okay, it's like this. It's like those people who are like, I want to quit smoking. I'm going to listen to a tape while I sleep that is like, you hate smoking. The smell makes you want to vomit.
Yes,
like,
yes.
If he, while she was in this trance, maybe he had to inject her too, but at the same time, he's like, you are going to have to defeat a vampire without your power.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And we know that she has premonition dreams, and she would be like, Giles, you know what's crazy? I had this wild dream that I had to like defeat this humongous behemoth of a vampire. Like, isn't that crazy? And Giles is like, you know what? That is crazy, but anything is possible. So maybe we need to do like some punchy punchies.
Yeah, maybe we need to get you like thinking on your feet and like being because here's the thing. I have long thought, Sarah, and I don't know if I've said this on the podcast a ton, but I have had it in my brain of like, they're not using holy water enough. Because holy water feels like a clutch move. We see it come in clutch this episode. But the minute I saw Buffy packing that when she's going to save her mom, I'm thinking, if I'm a Slayer, I'm walking around with a spray bottle. You know what? Fuck it. Not even if I'm a Slayer. If I live on Hellmouth, I'm carrying around a spray bottle of holy water. If one little vampire gets in your face, you spritz them right in the face.
That would be good. I also just don't think that it's quite accessible. Like, I think like Buffy has access to it, but do you really think that it's at the local magic shop or crystal store or whatever?
I mean, can't you just go to a church?
Oh, like we just have churches readily available with like gallons of holy water, as if.
I mean, I could go down my street here and bump into like 5 churches very easily. Like, there are churches everywhere around here. Like, it is very easy to find a church. I think you just walk in, you take your spray bottle, you dunk it in the thing of holy water, you screw the top back on, you're on your merry way.
Yeah, you want to order some holy water from the Vatican? I can tell you how much.
Yes,
please.
Wait,
this is very affordable.
Is it?
I thought it was going to be so much more money. I wonder if this. Okay, so like I'm looking at like
how much is
Vatican.
the shipping?
Oh, that's a
they get you with the shipping. It's a liquid, and they're having to send it overseas. Maybe we could get our friend Stuart to get his hands on some holy water for us. He's close by.
Okay, no, it's a bottle for holy water. There's no water included. Get me the water.
We need the water.
Tell me how.
So my other question about this whole test, Sarah, because we see them like laying the bricks, and they got their vampire in a straitjacket. Am I stupid? What were these pills for? They were feeding him pills the whole time, and then he's like, closer, and that's how he kills the one guy. And then later on, that's how Buffy gets him, is he needs the pills to like keep up his super strength. Are these like vampire pills? Did the pills make him into a vampire? I don't understand this.
I don't know. It's none of our business. Okay, I gotta tell you something. There's a Black Friday sale still going on for this holy water. Yeah, holy water from Rome.
Steal.
$29.90. Yeah.
It is affordable holy water.
Blessed from the Vatican.
Wow, from the man himself.
From the man himself. Wow. Comes with parchment with a prayer from Pope Francis. So it's accessible nowadays. But back then, we didn't have holy water that we could buy for Black Friday. It's also available on Amazon.
Of course it is.
You know what?
Of course it is.
You know what? Jeff Bezos, he's really big on holy water, actually.
This is hilarious.
Yeah. I can order some right now for $19.50. Blessed. It's from Jerusalem. So it's like the Jewy water, not the Vatican holy water. Hopefully that's good enough for you. But
oh my gosh.
I can get it for overnight shipping.
And in case you need it in a pinch.
7 a.m. by tomorrow. Yeah. That's very great. That's incredible. Yeah, I don't know what the pills were for. I'm like
so lost, and I'm on the wiki. I can't find an answer. Someone
You're
please.
You're allowed on the wiki?
I'm not going through any of the behind the scenes. I'm literally just looking at the summary, and I did Control F for the word pill.
What's this guy's name?
The vampire?
Yeah, big, thick, vampy.
Kralik?
LaCroix.
His name is LaCroix. So hold on. Let me ask our little friend group here that watches Buffy. What were the pills for that they were feeding the deadly vamp for
Vampire.
Buffy's birthday?
Yeah. Maybe it was just like steroid pills. Like, let me pump
Make him
you up.
super strong and take away all her powers. That's
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah. Let me pump you up. Essentially.
The test goes terribly because this man is devious enough to break out of his straitjacket and attack the man who's feeding him the pills, turning him into a vampire, slaughtering everybody. He escapes.
That's cheating.
And he definitely cheated. Well, I don't think he consented to the test in the first place.
I feel like he's on the payroll, actually.
You think he's like, I'm willing to just be taken out. It's a sacrifice that the Watchers demand.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's exactly what it is. He's like, you know what? I'm on the payroll. I'll do it because until I'm dead, I have health insurance. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Health insurance is really hard to get these days, especially when you're a vampire.
It's very tough.
Very, very tough.
Yeah. And so he escapes. Meanwhile, Buffy, who is powerless, having a shitty ass birthday because her dad blew her off. Then Giles also seems to be blowing her off. And on top of that, Sarah, she has this conversation with Angel.
Oh my God. Wait, what is going on with their little hangout in the beginning? They have all the grapes. They basically...
The Chakoots board, Sarah. And he can't even eat any of it.
It's low on the meats and cheeses and high on the grapes and nuts.
You were here for it.
I mean, my dream, right? Yeah.
She had a full ass baguette too.
Oh, I mean, I like bread. So they have this date. It's like, but they're just like working out together.
They're just
right?
sparring. Well, at least they're not doing their Tai Chi.
Oh, thank God they're not doing their Tai Chi.
It's a little sexier than Tai Chi.
Oh my God. Also, it was so freaking cringe when Buffy was like, I have plans. And he's like, a date?
With
he's
my
like,
daddy.
She's like, he's handsome. He's older. He likes to be called daddy.
What if she was going on a date with Daddy Vamps?
And then Angel was like, well, what do you mean? Like, do you mean he's like your dad or something? Is it your dad? Please tell me it's your dad.
It's Daddy Vamps.
Don't tell me it's just your father. And it was like, yes, don't worry. It's my dad, silly Angel. I'll see you later.
You're so silly, Angel.
Yeah.
So
also,
silly.
Maybe because I was going to say, like, why can't Angel take her to the show? And it's probably because this stupid show is a matinee. It's 3:00. Angel can't even come.
Well, also, they're not technically dating, even though they're like together. It's whatever. But the creepiest thing happens. This would have been like, I mean, Buffy's already having a bad birthday. This would have made my birthday worse, where she's like, what will I be without my powers? I'll just be Buffy. And I used to be like Cordelia. Oh, woe is me. And Angel's like, no, I fell in love with you the minute I saw you. And it's before you had powers, back when I stalked you.
Oh, back in California. I mean, she did have powers. Like they knew, like she, like, right?
That was before she met Merrick or whatever his name was.
Okay, so like the order of the operations was how then did Mr. fucking what's his name? Jigglypuff. What's his name?
Who the fuck is Jigglypuff? Who are you trying to say? Because I really don't know.
The guy from New York that was like, let me show you.
Oh shit, the magician? We will never remember his name. I truly don't know.
I know last time
he had a fedora on.
Mr. Mistocrates.
Mistopheles?
What was his name?
It wasn't the magician. It was something stupid though.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever the fuck he is. Okay, yeah. So he comes and he's like, how does he know that she's going to be the next Slayer then? If she's not already the Slayer officially.
Well, okay, here's the thing. She may already have the powers, but she doesn't know about them yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe that's the difference.
Yeah, I think I remember that because like, didn't she like flip somebody during cheerleading and they like went through the roof?
Yeah.
I think I made that up, but that's.
I mean, I believe that.
It seems like that would have happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's like, let me show you the next Slayer. Word on the street. I'm a demon. I don't know how I know.
Yeah.
I got in the newsletter that comes out monthly. And then they go over to California and he's like creeping in the car. And he's like, that's the hottest girl I've ever seen. It took me how many scores, Jessica?
Oh, 7 scores.
7 scores to find the hottest bitch in the world.
Yeah.
And here she is, 16 years old and
ripe for the pickings.
Ew. Yes. And he's like,
it is creepy. He's multiple hundreds of years old and he's creeping on some 16-year-old, just some blonde 16-year-old at her high school. And he's like, I knew I loved you from the second I saw you, Buffy.
Yes. So then he's like, I'm in love with her. And then he like followed her to Sunnydale after
again, stalker behavior. And he creeps on her multiple times. So so
it's fine. And then that was when he was actually interesting because he was a man with a secret, a mysterious man.
The only time he was interesting to me was when he was Angelus. But so they have that whole conversation, right? So Buffy is like having a time. People are catcalling her, not going well for her. She's lost all her powers. Then she gets confronted by Big Burly Kralik or whatever his name is. He attacks her. She goes running. Giles saves her. But the problemo is this man has her coat. And so he decides, I'm gonna play a little tricksy poo on Miss Joyce.
I love a prank and I love a little trick. And what's his name? Trixie? No, that's Mr. Tricks. That's
Mr.
else.
Trixie. He's a different man.
Totally somebody else. Okay. He was just here for the lulz. And he is like, let me see if I can lure Joyce by wearing this red jacket. And even though he spoke with a man voice, he said mother. And
mother. He's very Big Bad Wolf. Little Red Riding Hood's coat.
Yes. A la last week with the gingerbread storyline.
Exactly.
That I still don't understand, but
it doesn't make much sense.
So even though he had a man voice, he said mother, and Joyce was like, oh, let me help her. And then he like turns around, like lifts the jacket from her face, and he's like, hi, mother. And then it's like, it's just him, a vampire smiling. She got tricked because she's stupid, but it's okay.
She did. She got tricked. He captures her. He takes a Polaroid photo of her to lure Buffy
a lot. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait.
He's also a creepy stalker.
Okay. So many photos. It kind of reminded me of 2 things. Number 1, Pretty Little Liars, because A had a lot of photos, and number 2, that like really creepy Robin Williams movie, 1 hour photo. I've
not seen that.
Are you aware? You've never seen 1 hour photo?
I don't even know what that is.
It's a Robin Williams movie. We love Robin Williams.
Of course we do. That doesn't mean I've seen that movie.
Well, he works at his like local Walgreens, and he's just like this friendly photo guy, except for the fact that he steals everybody's photos and puts them all around his room.
I hate that.
Well, it's a scary movie.
Oh, well, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
This man is just as creepy. And he like, the other thing they tell us about him is he was a serial killer prior to being a vampire. And he like had a problem with moms. And so it's no surprise. It's no surprise that he goes and steals Joyce. He kidnaps her. That sends Buffy into a little bit of a tizzy. I did like the small moments of like Buffy packing up all her stuff that she has to bring, crossbow, stakes, holy water, whatever, and her having to lug it. And she's like, ugh, it's so heavy because she doesn't have her super strength anymore. And Sarah, did you know the holy water was going to be clutch when she put it in her pocket? Because it was like, so they like zoomed in on that shit. They're like, watch the holy water.
No, I don't. I wasn't paying attention to that. I was too focused on everything else going on in this episode.
All the lore. Yeah. And so Buffy goes, and we had like a very extended kicky, punchy sequence here because Buffy is trying to take down this Kralik guy, but also the man that he turned. It was either like Hobson or something, the vampire he turned, and she has to get, again, creative because she doesn't have her super strength anymore. And the entire time, Sarah, you know me, I'm sitting there like, she has this holy water in her pocket, tossed it in his face. Yeah, I knew she was going to do something with it, but I didn't know what. And it all comes down to the pills. And according to a friend of the podcast, Tom Palmer, Reddit seems to think the pills were drugs that the Watchers Council got him addicted to, and he got headaches when he didn't have them. And Tom also says the wiki says it's antipsychotics. Not sure if that actually makes sense, though. None of that really makes sense. What were the point of the pills?
You
think they want him more psychotic?
I don't understand.
Because the thing is Sarah, I wouldn't be harping about this if it wasn't essential to the plot, because it is essential to the plot. Because then he's fighting her and he's like starts to like have problems, and he takes his pills out of his pocket because he needs to take one, and he is like me, Sarah. He can't He can't do a dry swallow with a pill. He needs a glass of water.
Oh, it's like he has a bad gag reflex. That's really embarrassing for him.
Can you dry swallow pills?
Yes.
How many? Okay, let's say if I were to give you,
I've never taken 100 pills.
Okay, but like, does it have to kind of be any like coating? Like, I could understand people being able to like swallow like a liquid gel, because that is at least like, I feel like it goes down easier.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem. My only problem is that like if it if you don't take water afterwards, sometimes you
it feels like it's stuck there.
It gets stuck, or or like sometimes like you hiccup and then like you feel like the burn. That's the only bad part.
That's why I always use water, because I've had that feeling one too many times of like it feeling like it's still there, and it grosses me out so much. But yeah, this guy, he's like, no, he tries to get his pills out. Buffy grabs them, and slick little move by Buffy. She's like, this bitch is gonna, he has a gag reflex. He can't be dry swallowing. He's gonna look for water. So she pours the holy water into a glass, which he then swallows and like basically kills him from the out.
Hold on. Wait a minute. She's like, hi, are you parched? Let me pour you a glass of water.
No, she ran. She grabs the pills, runs into a different room, hides, pours the holy water into a glass, leaves the glass out. And then when he attacks her and grabs the pills back, he just sees a glass of water, drinks it.
Absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, and it works.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah.
Okay, pop off.
Yeah. And we can't forget her jumping down the laundry chute, which was very fun.
That sounds like a lot of good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she saves Joyce. And at the very least, also the other thing is then the other guy shows up, but Giles gets to him. At least.
That's good.
Giles stakes him.
Thank goodness somebody is putting in the work besides Buffy.
Yeah. And the next day, Joyce is all like, oh my gosh, you should have seen Buffy. Look what she did. She's so great.
I thought that was so cute. She's so proud of Buffy.
Yeah.
And she like wanted to tell the story, but she's like, no, I'll let you do it. And, but I mean, of course, the horrible, despicable thing that happened was that Giles got fired by the council. Like we talked about earlier. Willow is devastated because getting fired or getting in trouble, as we've talked about a lot, is like kind of like one of her worst fears, or getting expelled. She's kind of like Hermione. She's like, we might die, or even worse, get expelled.
Yeah. She's really, really torn up about this. It's interesting. I feel like Buffy's reaction is the one I'm most interested in, because when Giles, we kind of skipped the scene where Giles tells Buffy about like what he's doing and like what's been going on, right? Where he's been drugging her.
Yeah.
And he tells her what's coming up.
That was a crazy scene because of like how hurt Sarah Michelle Gellar looked. I was like, you are acting your little heart out. Good for you.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like both of these actors are so talented that you like felt the emotion. Like he looked devastated that he had played a part in this. Yes. And when she throws the syringe and she's like, don't touch me. Like it's intense. And I mean, obviously he then risks his life, like coming to her aid, right? Like he's a watcher. He's not a slayer. He doesn't have special powers. Granted, neither did she in that moment. But he does help. And then, of course, he gets fired. And I think it's interesting. I feel like there's going to be a measure, like a certain amount of forgiveness fairly quickly. because, Sarah, the reason that is it's said that he gets fired is because he loves her so much, like because he's so protective of her.
Yeah. I think that she's going to forgive. I don't think that she's going to hold this for a long time. I'm really glad that I had always been so pro Giles because I just love their relationship, how it's becoming. And Giles is the best. And I think I would forgive Giles if he poisoned me with a syringe, even though it's kind of fucked up, but I would forgive.
It was super fucked. I mean, we'll get into it in our feedback, I think, because a lot of people were curious to know like where Giles would fall in our rankings if we had done them after this episode.
Really? Okay, that's interesting because I honestly, like my opinion has not changed. He might even be going up. Like I'm not mad at him. He was just doing what he had to do, and he felt terrible about it. And he like comes to her rescue, and then he gets fired. Are you mad at Giles? Because I'm not at all.
I do think there are ways he could have handled this better. And looking at my rankings, I don't know that he would move that much, if at all. But it's mostly like, I think what saves it is the fact that like you can just see how much Giles cares for Buffy and how much it kills him that he's being forced to do this. But I do think like if he was going to tell her anyway, he should have told her before. And I don't understand what the harm would have been besides maybe he's just a rule follower and like struggles to not follow rules that, you know, orders he's given. Yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting. And I don't think Buffy's going to be mad at Giles for very long. It's really hard to watch him drug her and not hold him responsible for it, you know?
I mean, in my opinion, like we saw the scenes where he was really trying to fight it with the council and the higher ups and like trying to say like this is like archaic, it's like not right. And he basically had to like fall in line. Like some people wind up doing things that are against their moral compass because it's like their job or it's like what authority is telling them to do. And it's like now it's like up to Giles to like feel that guilt. I mean, I really don't think I think that he would have firmly stayed in my third place. I'm not mad at Giles.
I'm not mad at him leaving the episode. During the episode, I was a little ticked off. Like I was a little bit like, Giles, really, bro? Like, come on. But what's most interesting to me is, okay, he gets fired as a watcher, and a new watcher is going to be assigned to Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Giles is just going to be a librarian now.
I thought that he wasn't allowed to hang out with Buffy at all. Like, why is he going to be able to stay as a librarian?
Well, because they don't own him anymore. Like, it's not like, you know, he still has a job as a librarian. They don't own him.
Yeah, but didn't they say like, oh, you can't stay like near her, you can't be near her? But they
didn't want him being. I think that like he can't be her watcher. Like he can't advise her in the ways of slaying.
Okay,
but I don't know. It's just, yeah, he's still because Buffy is the one who says like, no, he still has a job as a librarian. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what do we think? Okay, let's make some predictions about Buffy's next watcher. Like, how long it lasts. Will they be killed off? Like, maybe we'll get a woman watcher actually for realsies this time, not a fake one.
Yeah, I can see a woman watcher, but also, I mean, obviously Buffy is going to be like putting up a stink with them. Like she's going to give such attitude with them. She's going to be a real terror. Maybe.
Also, why are they so quick to give Buffy a new watcher and Faith is sitting here watcherless for eons?
Because Buffy is the actual Slayer, the active Slayer. I think we're going to see like a montage of like Buffy getting a bunch of different watchers and like scaring them off, kind of like a 90s montage of like, I'm your new babysitter. And then like Buffy sets their hair on fire and like, you know, is rude to them. I don't know. Are you envisioning what I'm seeing?
I know what you're talking about. I don't think they'll last very long, but I don't think Buffy is going to like, put their hand in water while they sleep and like tie them up and put them in a closet or anything.
Yeah, and set them, like tie them or like put the air mattress out to sea. Like very, very Parent Trap with all the pranks.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
thumb in the hair.
I would love that. I could see Willow and Xander joining in as well, which I think would be very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can I ask you too, speaking of the rest of the Scoobies, because they don't have a ton to do this episode.
Yeah.
We do get like a tiny moment of comedic relief from Cordelia when she's like, "This is Giles. Did you forget?"
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Good one. Good line, Cordelia.
I did like how when Buffy asked her for a ride home, she's like, "Yeah, of course." Like she doesn't put up a stink. She doesn't like sass back. Like she could tell it's a serious moment. I miss Cordelia being more in the group though.
Yeah,
I will
I
admit.
do too.
Yeah.
I do too. She'll come around.
I hope so.
Yeah. I don't know what play. Like, I mean, in the last episode in Gingerbread, she like wanted to be there and help Giles. So she comes around. I wish that she didn't have a relationship with Xander that ended so poorly, because then like there wouldn't be the weirdness, but we can't have nice things.
No, we're not allowed. So yeah, that's our episode. I'm trying to think if we missed anything that we missed in this episode, Sarah, that we haven't already discussed.
I don't think so. I think that for me, I really liked it. I think that even though I don't typically like lore, I like what they were doing in this episode. I thought it was interesting, and obviously I compared it to a couple different real life experiences. And like I said, it's all for the lols.
Yeah.
Even though it probably shouldn't be all for the lols.
Okay, well, let's get into some feedback because we did get quite a bit. And a couple people have things to say and just like comments about the potential of what we're going to do about an Angel spinoff, which does make me think that it's happening sooner rather than later.
Yeah. The people have opinions. The crickets are chirping. So
yeah.
It's probably happening.
Cheryl wrote in and said she wants to put in her 2 cents regarding the Angel spinoff. She says, I once heard someone compare Buffy and Angel by saying that Buffy is the more consistent show, as in you're getting roughly the same quality of storytelling throughout. It doesn't really make weird plot leaps that are confusing or hard to follow. Angel, on the other hand, is less consistent and has lower lows, but also has higher highs. And she said, I feel like there are large chunks of Angel that you really have to be in an Angel headspace to want to watch, and definitely to rewatch. I really don't think I've ever felt the urge to rewatch Angel, even when I rewatch Buffy. And she says she does know what already happens in the crossover episodes, etc. However, there are individual episodes and character arcs on Angel that are really, really good, and there's some heavy crossover at some points. Plus, I think the Angel series finale is one of the best finales of anything I've seen.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. She says, I think the idea of having someone put together a list of essential Angel episodes to watch as you go along is a good one. You don't need to cover it if you don't want. That might be a lot, but for your watching enjoyment, as things go along, you might want the extra context. I don't think Buffy is ever unwatchable without that context, but I think it's nice and helpful to have. And as to, I said something on our last podcast as far as like, I don't hear people talking about Angel as much as I hear people talking about Buffy. And so I think this is a response to that. Cheryl says, I think the Angel fan base is probably smaller and less vocal than the Buffy fan base. So you'll have fewer people insisting that you really must watch Angel. But the people who do love Angel really love Angel. And I suspect that people just finding it in the binge watching era might be more likely to like it than they would have when they had to wait a whole week for a new episode. And some of them were more on the low side than on the high side. I think it's easier to forgive an episode that you don't like when you get to move right on to the next one, which is very fair. So yeah, and it's Cheryl also made a point of saying David Boreanaz is really interesting because he was the male lead on Buffy. Then he moved to his own show, Angel, where he was the title character, and then went straight to that, to Bones, where he's again the male lead. Like he's been working for like 27 years straight without really any gap. And when he's the main guy in all of these, isn't that kind of crazy?
What? He's a main character, and we are all NPCs. Confirmed.
In his life. Yeah. So that was Cheryl's 2 cents on the whole Angel of it all. And then we did get a message from Joe, who says that he thinks he has a compromise where he could make a 5-minute episode review video for all the Angel episodes we could watch. Then we'd have our 15 minutes to talk about it on the podcast. Or if there were big episodes we wanted to watch. I think what we'll do, or at least what we've talked about doing, is we'll probably at the very least check out the pilot. And I like both the idea of like a curated watch and just getting the heads up from people of like, hey, there's going to be a crossover thing coming up, so you might want to watch at least this episode. We spend 5-10 minutes on the podcast talking about it. It doesn't need to be a whole thing. We certainly are not committing to podcasting about the entire series, but when it's coming up, it'll come up and we'll figure it out then. I think we can find ways to make it work where we're not missing important context, you know?
Yep.
We also got, this is really funny. Cheryl had sent us like a parody song of Baby It's Cold Outside, but it's Buffy It's Cold Outside.
Oh.
And I believe it's from the podcast she was referencing in a different email, Buffering the Vampire Slayer, where they make like parody songs. It's pretty cute. It's pretty cute.
Cute. Merry Christmas.
Yes. And then we also got an email from Sophie, who says, loving the podcast and listening to you guys talk about the show. I especially loved your character ranking and that Buffy is still at the top of your lists. So she does, because she doesn't always get the love she deserves, in my opinion. I really love this episode. Being a Buffy girly myself, it shows a different side to Buffy, and I love how it deepens the Buffy-Giles relationship, and it is explicitly said, finally, how they have a father-daughter relationship. I thought that maybe you would do the character rankings after this episode because I can't count, and I was worried if this would affect how you would rank Giles on the character rankings. And you've already said, Sarah, this does not affect yours at all.
No.
He
might have, quite honestly, he might have went up to 2 if it was after this episode. And purely because, like, let's talk about, I said this in the Felicity podcast rankings. I think I am going to start ranking based off of who I am most interested in seeing on my screen. And even
because if people do bad things, that's still interesting.
It's still compelling, right? So I think that, like, if I ranked it this week, I think Giles would be number 2 and Buffy would be number 1. And then Cordelia would go down to 3.
Yeah, I think I feel similarly in that, like, yes, Giles did a bad thing this episode, right? Like, if we're comparing levels here, which, by the way, I'm holding up my hands. If you're watching us on YouTube, you see me hold my hands up. Giles, I think, did a bad thing. So he goes, like, down a notch, right? But then, like, the strengthening of the bond between Giles and Buffy and him just showing how much he cares about her, I think bumps it, like, it goes back up and then some, you know? Like, it feels like I didn't like what he did, but I also feel like the acting is so good, and just like we've seen this relationship developing, and it feels like it really is hit home in this episode because her dad also ditches her, you know?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it just makes Giles like more of a human. Like, sometimes we do things that are like not in our character and isn't necessarily the right or a good thing to do, but we are just being kind of told because it's our job, or they're like, you know, we're being influenced by somebody who's a superior to us. And like I said, you do things that's out of your character. I just think it makes Giles more interesting. And it's like, it's not like he was like, yes, I will give her this medication syringe and I'm happy to do it, no problemo. Like, he was having issues doing it during, and then eventually he comes clean and gives Buffy like a heads up. So for me, I'm fine.
I also think too that, like, I get the vibe from Giles that this is like one of the one and only times he's really like spoken up against authority.
Yeah,
like
I think so.
And he's such a rule follower. I think it's extremely difficult for him to feel emboldened enough to ever do something like that. And so that just shows how much he cares for Buffy, that he did go to that extent.
Well, I mean, like, my thought is that, like, when he was Ripper, he went so far in the opposite direction that, like,
oh, I forgot. Yeah.
So that I think that like when he is like an authority, or like when he's a rule follower, or like buttoned up Giles, like he feels like he's in control. He's not like flailing. And I think that when he breaks the rules, I think that he's worried that he's going to get like out of control again, like he was while he was Ripper. So I think like that's why like following the rules and like not questioning authority is so important to him, because that represents like, I am like buttoned up, I'm under control, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to. I'm not like going off and doing crazy dark magic with Ethan. Like I'm a good person. And if he questions it, then that is like, oh, I'm still Ripper. Like that, like beast is still in me. So like, I think that's another reason why, like at first he wasn't questioning, or I mean, he was questioning, let's be clear. He wasn't fighting or refusing, because if he did that, then he is going against authority. He is being rebellious, which is something that he's really trying to fight against.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. Giles is such an interesting character. Sophie continues, I've never held Giles's actions against him in this episode. No matter how many times I watch, I can always see his point of view and understand where he's coming from. I just can't get angry at him, especially after he makes up for it in the end. Another character that I didn't love so much might be dead to me, or have a really hard time, or have a really long, hard road of redemption ahead. Really looking forward to listening to your takes and how you feel about him after this episode. Also looking forward to what you think of next episode. It's an interesting one that you definitely make time for us. You should definitely make time for a second viewing.
Okay, no problem.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Sophie. Sophie ended, I love this. Sophie ends their email with Bezos. Not Bezos, Besos. Kisses in Spanish.
Oh, cute.
I don't mean to say Bezos like the guy. Bezos.
Cool.
Anyway, I love when people have like unique email signatures, sign offs, you know? It's cute. That's all the feedback we have.
You know, I just remembered.
Yes.
That I kind of did crack up at Xander at the end of the episode.
Oh, the peanut butter thing?
Yeah.
It was funny. It was funny.
Yeah.
It was funny.
When Buffy was like, hey, like, can you like open this up? And then he's like, I can't do it. And he's like, Willow, can you open up the peanut butter? Yeah. Oh man.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. That was a funny.
And all those Scoobies did gather. And I was also like a little when Buffy's like, I've lost my powers. And Giles is like, meh, like just shrugs his shoulders. They're like, okay, what the fuck's going on with Giles? Meanwhile, the Scoobies are like gathering around, like trying to help, like trying to look up, what is this a curse? Is this an illness? Like what's going on? I loved the kryptonite conversation between Oz and Xander. It was very funny.
Dorks. They're dorks.
I mean, I knew that red kryptonite was not the answer to that question, but I've also seen Smallville and read a decent amount of small Superman comic books. Anyway, next week's episode, Sarah, season 3, episode 13 is titled The Zeppo.
Zeppo the lighter?
That's a Zippo.
Oh, okay.
Isn't a Zeppo, what's the thing that cleans ice?
Zamboni.
Oh, never mind. It's another Z word, but
yeah.
What is a Zeppo? Is it when someone's like a Nepo baby, but they're a Generation Z? They're a Zeppo baby.
Yep, that's right.
Could be it. So we'll be talking about that episode next week. Of course, if you want to send in feedback at shit90spod, shit90spod.com is the way to do so. You can comment on our YouTube channel. Go find us, youtube.com/shit90spod. We greatly appreciate anyone who's checking us out. You could see our lovely faces. Go find me on Talking Shit. Sarah is also hanging out over on Whirlwind Podcasts, having a whirlwind of a good time. Anything else, Sarah? Anything else you want to tell the people about?
No, that's it.
Okay, so next week we'll be back for the Zeppo. But until then, everyone, here endeth the lesson.
Just ask. Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.